Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something absolutely crucial: how we literally consumed our way into a global waste crisis, and, more importantly, how we can design our way out of it by transitioning to the circular economy. Okay, let's dive right into this. To understand where we are, we kind of have to look at how we got here in the first place. Following the end of the Second World War, we entered this massive 30-year period of just unprecedented rapid economic growth. Raw materials were incredibly cheap, wages were up, and we saw this huge psychological shift. Basically, the era of unbridled mass consumption was born. It completely revolutionized everyday life. But, by the late 1970s, the party started to slow down. People began to look around and seriously question the environmental impact of all this overconsumption. And that culminated in a landmark moment in 1972, when the Club of Rome published a major report called The Limits to Growth.
And the whole problem really boils down to this perfectly stated quote: the contradictions between infinite growth and a finite world. Think about that for a second. You simply cannot sustain infinite economic and material growth on a planet that has finite, limited resources. It's impossible. That report was a massive wake-up call for us. It highlighted that our linear production methods, taking resources, making things, and then just throwing them away, were on a direct collision course with the physical realities of Earth. And that exact collision course has led us directly to the modern waste crisis we're dealing with today. To give you a real sense of just how severe that crisis has become, consider this staggering number: 2.01 billion. That is the amount in tons of municipal solid waste we generate across the globe every single year. It's a direct result of rapid urbanization, population growth, and a deeply ingrained throwaway culture where products are literally designed to have short lifespans with absolutely no end-of-life plan. So the crucial point is, not all of that waste is just neatly tucked away somewhere safe. Actually, it's quite the opposite. At least 33%, a full third of that massive 2.01 billion tons, currently lacks any safe environmental management whatsoever. It's openly dumped, it's leaking into our oceans, seeping into our soils, and totally overwhelming our cities. The systems we rely on to handle our trash are completely buckling under the weight of our own consumption. Let's break that massive global scale down to an individual level just to make it a bit more relatable. Every single year, the average person in the European Union generates 5 tons of waste. 5 tons. Imagine that entire pile of garbage just sitting in your driveway. High-income countries, despite only having about 16% of the world's population, are generating around 34% of the world's waste. It's a massive, localized output that's driving a truly global crisis. Section 1. Drowning in food and plastic. To really grasp the impact of this crisis, we need to zoom in on 2 critical sectors where this linear model is causing immediate catastrophic damage. Globally, we are wasting around 931 million tons of food annually. A whopping 61% of that comes directly from our own households, followed by 26% from food service and 13% from retail. And here's the thing, this isn't just about throwing away a bad apple. It is a massive waste of all the resources used to grow that food. To put that into perspective, the water footprint of all this wasted food is nearly 250 cubic kilometers of agricultural water. It drives greenhouse gas emissions, ruins habitats, and causes over $750 billion in economic losses every single year. And then we have the plastic crisis. We're churning out 300 million tons of plastic yearly, almost all of it derived from fossil fuels. But here is a truly shocking fact. The average working life of a plastic bag before it gets tossed is just 12 minutes. 12 minutes of use for a product that takes decades to break down. And as it does finally degrade, it splinters into microplastics. We are now literally finding these tiny plastic particles lodged deep inside living people's lungs and circulating right there in our bloodstreams. Our linear model for plastics has undeniably become a major human health crisis. Now, what's really interesting and honestly completely terrifying is our current trajectory. Right now, today, we dump the equivalent of 1 garbage truck full of plastic into the ocean every single minute. If we just keep up business as usual, by 2030, that doubles to 2 trucks a minute, and by 2050, it quadruples to 4 trucks a minute. At that rate, plastic is literally going to outweigh fish in our oceans. So clearly, just tweaking the edges of our current system is absolutely not going to cut it. Section 2, the circular economy solution. We need a systemic overhaul. Let's contrast the old paradigm with the new one. The linear economy is simple, but it's incredibly destructive. Take, make, consume, and dispose. You extract a resource, use it for a little bit, and bury it in a hole.
The circular economy, on the other hand, entirely reimagines this whole process. It aims for a zero-waste economy by keeping materials in continuous loops. It essentially splits materials into two cycles: biological materials that can safely break down and return to the earth, and technical materials that are specifically designed to be continuously reused, repaired, and remanufactured without causing any harm. The whole point is to design waste out of the system from the very beginning. To make this actually actionable, the circular economy utilizes what we call the 10 R's hierarchy. Now, a lot of people think recycling is the ultimate green action. Well, actually, scratch that. It's practically at the bottom of the list. The top core priorities focus on things like refuse, meaning completely refraining from using unnecessary resources in the first place. Then we move down to redesigning, reducing, reusing, and repairing. We really should only recycle when we've exhausted absolutely every other option to keep a product in its original, functional form. It completely flips our traditional priorities upside down, doesn't it? Section 3. Rethinking materials and responsibility. So let's move beyond just the theory and look at the real-world applications, the business models, and the crazy material innovations making the circularity happen right now. It starts with a concept called extended producer responsibility, or EPR. This is a total game changer for environmental policy. Under an EPR scheme, a company's responsibility for the product they make doesn't just end when you buy it at the store. Their financial and operational responsibility extends all the way to the post-consumer stage, the very end of the product's life. This essentially forces producers to design much better, more durable, and easily recyclable products. Because hey, if they make garbage, they're the ones footing the bill to clean it up. Let's move to and see how this builds a real-world scenario with the French furniture EPR scheme. Instead of an old mattress just rotting away in some landfill, consider this structured life cycle. First, furniture gets collected at dedicated centers. Next, it's meticulously sorted out. The wood gets ground up to make brand new particle boards. Plastics are turned into pellets to be used for new products. And that old mattress? It's literally physically dismantled. The foam is separated to create new foam panels, and the steel springs are sent right off for iron production. It's this beautiful, continuous loop where materials are given a real second life. We're also seeing some truly incredible innovations in alternative materials. Take this brilliant example from Yale University. Scientists there wanted a real alternative to single-use plastics. So they took wood powder, which is just a waste product from lumber mills. They used a biodegradable solvent to break it down into this organic slurry, and then they entangled the polymers and cellulose together at a nanoscale level. The result? A high-strength bioplastic that can entirely degrade in a humid environment in just 3 months. This is exactly what we mean when we talk about a biological cycle in the circular economy. Section 4. AI and smart waste tech. Now, designing better materials is really only half the battle. We also have to drastically modernize how we handle the physical sorting and management of all these resources, and that's where modern tech steps in. We're seeing AI and the Internet of Things completely optimize our circular infrastructure. We now have IoT smart bins that transmit their real-time fill levels, meaning garbage trucks only drive to bins that are actually full, which cuts labor and fuel costs big time. We've got methane sensors in facilities to detect gas levels and prevent fires, and my personal favorite, AI robotic arms like Zen Robotics. These machines use computer vision to sort through waste on a fast-moving conveyor belt, recognizing 13 different materials and sorting them with 90% purity. It's incredibly efficient and makes sure those valuable materials get redirected right back into the economy. Section 5. EU policies driving change. Of course, technology and innovation can only scale if the legal framework supports them. Right now, the European Union is implementing some of the most ambitious policies on the globe. And they aren't just making polite suggestions, they're setting hard, actionable targets. Under the Single-Use Plastics Directive, there's a strict mandate for 77% separate collection of PET, that's your standard clear plastic, bottles by 2025. By that exact same year, those bottles must contain 25% recycled plastic. And the Packaging Directive requires 70% of all packaging waste to be recycled by 2030. These directives, right alongside the Waste Framework Directive, are strictly enforcing circularity across the entire continent. But laws need teeth, right? And that's exactly why these policies are backed up by powerful economic instruments. Things like landfill charges make it incredibly expensive for companies to just throw things away. Pay-as-you-throw systems financially penalize the linear model right at the household level, while deposit refund schemes actively reward you for returning materials into that circular loop. It's all about aligning the financial incentives with our environmental realities. Which brings us to the final, and honestly, perhaps the most important piece of the whole puzzle: you. We've talked about global history, massive policies, and incredible tech, but the circular economy absolutely requires a shift in individual behavior too. So I want to leave you with this provocative question to chew on. Where do your own consumption habits fall on that 10 R's hierarchy? Are you stuck at the bottom, just trying to recycle what you buy? Or can you find ways to refuse, redesign, and reuse? Overcoming our historical throwaway culture starts with the choices we make every single day. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope you leave today ready to rethink and redesign our future.